Hi everyone, my name is Barry West. I'm Head of Emerging Technology within ADGM, within actually the Financial Services Regulator within ADGM, which is the Financial Free Zone in Abu Dhabi. I'm helping lead on the fintech strategy and implementation of some of the larger initiatives that we're running. One of those being the Digital Lab, which is an online platform where regulators, fintechs, regtechs, financial institutions all come together and rapidly prototype and experiment and collaborate together. And the other is the digital regulations, which is where I've been working with the Clausematch team to look at how we might leverage natural language processing, machine learning, and graph analysis to express rules and regulations in a completely new digital fluid medium. If you look at the current process, it's light years ahead. The current process being PDF documents submitted to regulator, Word documents submitted to regulator, kind of look through the proposed compliance procedures and blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of see if it's there or if there's a risk that something's been missed. And we go back and advise and so on and so forth. So it's a very lengthy, long-winded process fraught with human error. If you want to start searching for a certain term or a certain terms or set of terms with all of our documents, right now you have to open each PDF and search, get your results, close. Open the next PDF, search, bring back the results. And then if you want to try and change that and do some drafting, then you have to know inherently where all the links are between all the different documents and know which document to open, make the changes, send it off to someone to comment. And so actually the power, the beauty of the very first thing you can do with Clausematch is just remove all of those headaches. That was okay when processes were more paper-based, but now instantaneous payments are happening, micro payments are happening. We've got robo-advisory, kind of kicking off all over the place, advising this and that. And so as regulators, we need to be clear what that means in the new world and how regulation should be written. We're breaking all that down. We're changing all of that. The Clausematch guys have been helping me to basically turn each word into a data point. And then what each data point means is it can reference instantaneously the next word and the next word amongst that. So if you think back to that quote around Elon Musk, all of a sudden that lossy compression, we actually start re-engineering that and fixing that problem. And we kind of build in the context and hopefully recreate the meaning of what the rules and regulations were at the very beginning. Kind of almost like talking to the regulator firsthand all the time. But also then you're not just talking to the regulator and the interpretation of those rules from the regulator, you're actually talking from the point of view of an accountant, from a legal perspective, from a lawyer as well. So you can start looking at this rule book in many different ways. And this is why it's so exciting. Hopefully moving rules and regulations into a way that's really dynamic and people can really look at and see and understand and almost kind of build into their own software and solutions. So they're kind of compliant by design as well. It's a very exciting project for me and hopefully people elsewhere will see the value of it. What starts getting really interesting for us is when we can start linking all of the documents together and we can start showing, actually, here's the link from this paragraph to this document and this link to that document and so on and so forth. And then that becomes even more powerful because actually what we can then do is then offer that up to firms and firms themselves can then start interfacing with their own instance of Clausematch and then upload their own, let's just say, control documents or compliance documents. And so what they can do is take our rules and regs that will be exposed and then start linking them directly to their control documents and where they're meeting. And that's really exciting for a regulator because what you can start seeing is, okay, here's my rules and regs over here. If I want to model a policy change, I can instantaneously see from all the firms that are hooked up on the other side of the fence, the implications of that and what that means from their controls and what that means from their business processes and actually what it means for the data they collect. We can also then do a very powerful analysis of how the controls are being met, how the controls meet the regulations. And this is what we're working on with the models, the AI models, with Vlad and the team at Clausematch, and how we might then leverage that to instantaneously see the compliance of all firms around us, how well they've met them, and how well it's embedded within the firm. So it's all well and good manually linking them, but what we can potentially do with this tool is do it automatically. And not just do it automatically, but actually assess how strong they are, how strong those links are. If you can imagine the ability for us to expose our rules and regulations as a knowledge graph. So as I mentioned, every word is a data point. and every data point is linked to the nearest word. And then what we do around that is we embed the domain expertise around clusters of words, essentially. So we embed where we see a risk and the clusters around that relating to the rule or the regulation or part of the guidance that is identifying that. But because we've clustered it and we've created all the data points, you can start seeing why that's a risk and from different perspectives as why it's a risk, not just from a regulator's perspective, but from all over different domain expertise. And then you can link it dynamically because we've done the linking between the rules and the compliance documents and everything else. We can then link it to the mitigating steps, and then we can see how it's mitigating. We can also then learn from other areas to embed into this knowledge graph around what a technology might do to mitigate these risks and so on and so forth. So that's one way we see Regulator 2.0 expressing rules and regulations in a much more much more dynamic and completely intuitive manner, instantaneously sucking in knowledge from elsewhere to help augment people's understanding of what is trying to be expressed by the regulator. The knowledge graph work will also enable us to start seeing potentially other supervisory APIs that we might be able to leverage and build out. And so this is really exciting for us. So it will enable us to do really deep analysis. It will enable us to really speed up the process of writing, updating, rejuvenating our rules and regulations for a digital paradigm. And then also look at different areas of supervisory APIs that might be relevant for different clusters, different risks within, that we spot within the knowledge graph. I've been very lucky to work with Clausematch, who have gone, quite frankly, above and beyond what I was imagining it from the very beginning. Then there's the other aspect around actually, so we've done all this work. We can then clearly expose all of these as APIs. And so what we can have is entities that are regulated, or it doesn't have to be just entities, it could be any interested party, interacting dynamically with the rules and regulations via API calls, instantaneously getting a response. And then, of course, the final piece is because we've essentially expressed all of this as knowledge graphs and APIs, actually what we've done is created triples, and triples can then be, triples can essentially be turned into some sort of code. And so what we can start doing is then expressing certain specific parts of our rules and regs as code. So you've got APIs calls, you can call the code, you can call the actual rule books, you can bring in different domain expertise. This is my vision of how regulation could be expressed going forwards in a much more dynamic, holistic, interactive manner. As the regulator itself, we then get to assess areas of risk that maybe not as well looked after as possible. Regulation, as we know it, was initially seeded from FISMA back in 2004, which was imagined when paper processes within institutions was the norm. That's clearly not the case anymore. So all of the frameworks, all of the rules, all of the mentality and the supervision and enforcement actions based on this have been built on top of this 2004 paper kind of process piece of regulation. And so what can we do with this new tooling as well to reboot our rules and frameworks?